You ever get so disgusted, so mortified, so appalled with what you are seeing that you can't even eat dinner? You can't even function. 12 hours, nothing to eat. I couldn't even look at food. That is how appalled I was last night during Monday Night Football. Hi, everybody. Colin Russo here with Russo and Russo live here at ESPN 106.3. No Mike Rizzo once again. He is down with the bubonic plague or something like that.
Oh, he was generous enough to share it with the rest of us, though. Came into work looking like he just got out of a wedding after party with the popped collar on a dress shirt, and he looked like crap. And we sent him right home before, of course, he was able to infect the entire office. So we'll see how that does. That adds to my day. Jaguars 47-10 final loss to the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. And I have a couple thoughts on this. For those who don't know, I am a Jaguar fan. Why I am a Jaguar fan, I'm asking myself the same question at this point. But fact of the matter remains, I am a Jaguar fan. So I unfortunately had to sit through that game last night with the connection to that team. Here's the thing. Here's my take on. So the first question is, am I surprised? No, I'm not surprised. Am I pissed off? Of course. But I think what I saw last night, and more importantly, what I saw throughout the NFL the past 3 weeks, is a lot of reflections of what really works in professional football versus what doesn't. On the one case of the Jacksonville Jaguars, you have one of the most pathetically ran, inept organizations in the history of sports. That is what you have with the Jacksonville Jaguars. On the other side of things, you look at somebody like the Buffalo Bills, a properly ran organization who have stability from top down, from ownership to coaching to players. Jacksonville went out there last night like a team that was uninterested, unmotivated, and there was a lack of pride surrounding how they approached that game last night. I came into the show yesterday, and I started screaming about how the 0-2 teams are fighting for everything. They're fighting for their season. 0-3 is a black hole for NFL franchises. A black hole. There is no turning back from 0-3. Jacksonville, you'd think after the Broncos did it, they won. They're at 1-2. The Panthers did it. 1-2. The Rams, the Ravens, all those teams played well. Titans they didn't play well either. They're stuck in black hole land with Jacksonville. So I thought, to the optimist side of me, that Doug Peterson, a Super Bowl winning, multi-playoff winning head coach, can get this team prepared and have them understand the significance of the moment in which they're playing in. And that Monday Night Football game. You know, you're on prime time. This is a team that had relatively high expectations. They were 8-3 after 11 games last year. Finished 1-5. 9-8, missed the postseason. The Jacksonville Jaguars are one of the most laughable and horrendous organizations I've ever seen. And it doesn't just stem from what Trevor Lawrence did. He was terrible. I probably could have done a better job than him last night. But he is a product of a much larger problem that plagues a lot of NFL teams, but mostly and very capably plagues the Jags. Organizational dysfunction. When I say organizational dysfunction, think of it like you're in the office. If you have a boss or if there's somebody that is the high up on the company who either seems uninterested, unqualified, or incapable of doing what they're asked of them, it is easy for the employees under them to fall into a similar line. You are only as strong as your leader. And for these NFL teams, those leaders rely on ownership. They rely in front office, and they rely in coaching. When the foot soldiers, the players in this instance, see that the organization as a whole is one that underqualified, incapable, and unmotivated in changing, I guess, the foundations of what made it work. When you bring in a new boss, what do? They rip out the foundation. They start something new. But when you start getting new bosses year after year and after year, and these bosses don't change anything, and they try a bunch of the same things that haven't worked in a majority of 20 years, that is what Jacksonville is dealing with. Now, I could sit here and blame Shad Khan, somebody who is not a football guy, and he knowingly is not a football guy. But the fact that he doesn't know he's a football guy, no, the fact that he does know he's not a football guy, tells him that, okay, I have to deploy some trust. Where do I do that? The general manager position, the coaching position. All right. So when Shad Khan takes over, there have been a number of people that he has relied his trust into, loyally, I might add, into who runs those franchises. Most notably, if for those who remember, he brought in Dave Caldwell in 2013. Dave Caldwell, as general manager, dealt with Mike Mularkey, Doug Marrone, Gus Bradley, all dumpster fires. Urban Meyer, a complete dumpster fire. What that happened year after year in Jacksonville has been a disgrace. Dave Caldwell, general manager, went 37-91 in the 7 years he was with Jacksonville. 37-91. He had 2 seasons of 6 or more wins, one of which being 6. 4 seasons of 3 and under wins. And he managed to keep a job for 7 years. That is the bottom of the line garbage. The bottom of the can garbage. All right. Dave Caldwell was a big problem. Who do we turn to? Oh, Super Bowl winning head coach Tom Coughlin. Let's bring Coughlin in here. The military man. The guy who, show up 5 minutes early, won a Super Bowl, beat Brady when it mattered. Bring Coughlin in. All right. A little bit of a revamp. You see somewhat of a bright spot in how they're operating. Wrong. After one season, 2017, in which they were great with a bad quarterback, all of a sudden these scandals and these stories and losing the locker room comes about. Coughlin comes in and treats a bunch of professional grown men like a bunch of college players. Like guys he could boss around and overstep. Didn't really respect and partially goes to the Jacksonville players as well, but partially goes to Coughlin and how he treated them like a bunch of college players. All right. Bunch of stuff comes out about Coughlin. Oh, he losing the locker room. Jalen Ramsey was feuding with him. All right. Both out. Coughlin gone. Ramsey gone. Maybe we could rid ourselves of this bacteria that is surrounding this NFL franchise. Trent Baalke had some success in San Francisco as general manager. They went to a couple Super Bowls. They had Jim Harbaugh in there. All right, bring in Baalke. Baalke, the guy who burned San Francisco to the ground on his way out, keep in mind. Bring in Trent Baalke. Now where do we go? All right, another Super Bowl winning head coach, a guy who was easy to play for, Doug Peterson. Had some success with the Eagles. This guy, he's easy to play for. He's coming from the Eagles. The Eagles are usually successful, a well-run organization, great general manager, good ownership. Doug Peterson comes in, thought we changed the tide. 9-8 first year, a playoff win. They won 7 straight to finish that year. 2-7 they were. Go on a win streak, make it to the postseason. Down 27-0 at halftime against the Los Angeles Chargers in 2022. At halftime, at home. They come back and win triumphantly. Wow, what a win. Tides are turning for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Wrong. Play valiantly, I might add, to the Kansas City Chiefs. Turn around the next year. Let's run it back with Caldwell. Lawrence is taking his step. upgrade here and there. This has got to be the year. Wrong. Start at 8-3, top of the AFC. Wow. This team's playing really, really well. Press Taylor, Doug Peterson, Trent Baalke, Shad Khan, you might have figured it out as the owner. You might have finally did it. Finished 1-5 the rest of that season in 2023. 9-8, missed the postseason. The only game Jacksonville has won in 303 days was against the Carolina Panthers with C.J. Beathard under center. That was the only game Jacksonville has won in over 300 days. All right, well, now after that season, all right, the Jacksonville got punched in the mouth a little bit. Not as good as you thought they were, right? That's got to be the thought going into the offseason. So let's upgrade. Get rid of Calvin Ridley. In comes Brian Thomas from the draft. Bring in Gabe Davis, a proven veteran from Buffalo. Christian Kirk is back healthy. Get Lawrence locked down to a $250 million extension. Evan Engram, lock him down. Tyson Campbell at corner. Let's lock him down. Darnell Savage, let's bring him in from Green Bay, a proven organization. Something's got to click now. Bunch of veterans. Coming to the training camp, Shad Khan, a non-football guy, comes in and says, I've been here for a number of years. I'm starting to get the hang of this. This is the best team of football players that we have had in this franchise's history. This is win now. This is make noise now. 0-3 to start the year. They blow the game against Miami. Drop an absolute stinker last week against the Browns. And then last night, one of the more embarrassing losses I've ever seen with my own two eyes. Not only did they not even bother to show up, they looked like dead. That's what they looked like. They looked like a team that is not playing for their coach. That's why I'm surprised Peterson still has a job. How are you going to deploy a team like that with the lack of preparation, the lack of motivation, and the lack of sheer effort on the Jacksonville's end? How does that not reflect the coaching? Josh Allen walked down the field all game. How can you continue to have Peterson, Press Taylor, hell, Trent Baalke as general manager still in the building after a nationally televised loss like that? That is a disgrace. That is organizational dysfunction. That is somebody who deploys their loyalty to a fault. That is what Shad Khan does. An absolute disgrace of a football game I watched last night. Not only am I completely in favor of a fire sale, Jacksonville is in a situation in which they are trapped, not lucky enough to have, trapped in a contract with Trevor Lawrence. At what point in time can we start pointing fingers in multiple directions? With Jacksonville, it's always one person's fault. It was always Tom Coughlin's fault. It was always Dave Caldwell's fault. Doug Marrone didn't challenge us enough. It was always his fault. A couple weeks ago, it's Doug Peterson's fault. Get him out. You know whose never fault it was? It was never Trevor Lawrence's fault. Why is that? Lawrence has been a player that has seen insurmountable success up until his NFL career. Comes in, tough spot. Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer treated these guys like a bunch of college kids. Didn't work out, didn't last the season. Goodbye. Lawrence gets a chalk off. I believe that. That's fair. Now, Lawrence has been up and down ever since. In the early on part of 2022, when they were 2-7, 3-7, I watched, that was one of the worst teams ever. That was more of the same. Then all of a sudden they turn it around. Win 7 in a row. Oh, this team's interesting. Get to the playoffs, bad loss. All right. Start the year off on the same note. Oh, this team's really good. Then 8 games of the worst football I've ever watched from Jacksonville last year, and it's carried over into this year. Doug Peterson should not have gotten on the plane last night. Trevor Lawrence should have hitchhiked home. That organizational dysfunction, needs to be completely wiped clean. If you look at some of the great run organizations in the NFL this year, you'd be surprised on how well they're doing. What determines a good organization? Good ownership to start. Art Rooney and the Steelers. The Hunt family with the Chiefs. Ever since Clark Hunt took over in 2006, they seemingly have been around. The Allen family when Paul Allen bought the Seahawks. Well-run organization. Robert Kraft, the New England Patriots. Jerry Jones, if you want to include him, I will. One of the most successful franchises in sports without even ever going to a Super Bowl in 30 years. Steve Bisciotti for the Ravens. 2 head coaches in 24 years. It's pretty freaking good. Ownership. Where does it go underneath that? Some of these owners don't know football. Some of them stay out of the way. I understand that. General managers. Mickey Loomis of the Saints. 2002 since he got hired. 22 seasons as general manager. Saints have seen a lot of success. Now they have had a couple terrible 7-9 seasons, won a Super Bowl, have been damn close to getting to a couple more. John Schneider of the Seahawks since 2010. Howie Roseman with the Eagles since 2010. Les Snead since 2012 with the Rams. Brian Gutekunst, a guy who's been with the Packers for 25 years, hired in 2018. Homegrown. Eric DeCosta of the Ravens, promoted within 2019, but with the Ravens since 1996. Omar Khan, the new Steelers general manager, with the Steelers since 2001, never left. Brett Veach, the GM of the Kansas City Chiefs, started with the Eagles, a well-run organization, went to the Chiefs about 15 years ago. Promoted internally in 2017. John Lynch, an outlier, came with Shanahan when, guess what? The 49ers needed a facelift. And who'd they get rid of? Trent Baalke. What do? Go after Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan gets a call from John Lynch. Hey, keep me in mind if you get that Niner job. In comes John Lynch. Now, 7 years later, one of the best organizations in football. Sometimes you need to gut it from the inside. Brandon Beane, been there since 2017 alongside Sean McDermott. He's been there for 8 years. Success, consistency, stability. In order to fix something, sometimes you have to tear it all down. And it seems like a different year, same song for Jacksonville, but that's exactly what you have to do. When they got rid of Urban Meyer, they kept the general manager around. When they got rid of Doug Marrone, they kept the general manager around. When they got rid of the general manager, they kept the head coach around. At a certain point, you got to gut everything. You got to gut everything. That's where Jacksonville's at. Look at some of the great organizations in football and why they succeed. Why are the Packers consistently good? Why are the Seahawks consistently good? Eagles, consistently in the mix. The Rams, ever since McVay got involved, consistently in the mix. The Chiefs, consistently good. Because it's stable. And because there's people that know what they are doing. And there is that stability. Where does it trickle down to? Any office you've ever worked for in your entire life starts at the top. If people work in an office space at a job and they're impressed, in awe of the person in charge, how does he manage the schedule? He is a machine. He goes everywhere. Steve Politziner, we'll talk to him a little bit. A machine. How do they do it? Looking down up at the leadership in any business. You're impressed with how they manage their time, how they allocate their resources, how they allocate trust, loyalty, how they allocate experience. That determines a good boss, and a trickle-down effect occurs under the foot soldiers. That's what determines a successful business. Starts at the top. Jacksonville needs to be gutted. 47-10 final, Monday Night Football. They need to be gutted. 3 weeks in, if they win the next 8 straight, I'll eat my words. They need to be gutted. It's Russo and Rizzo live here, ESPN 106.3.